Why do landlords not use financial advisors? And I'm going to give the video a few seconds to make sure that I'm actually live here. Sometimes it cuts off the beginning, which is really weird. It's where the best jokes are. I reached financial freedom after a decade of investing and retired in 2022. Started from a really bad position, right? Laid off from law enforcement because of the 2008 housing crash. Found out about $89,000 in bad debt in my name I didn't know existed till the divorce. I was a single parent with 3 kids, started teaching at a CDL school, not making a lot of money. And I invested in real estate for a couple of reasons. One, because I was kind of later in life, right? I didn't start thinking about money until I was 40. And I wanted to reach financial freedom within a decade. So I didn't invest in stocks because I didn't have, the time for compound interest to do its thing. I didn't have high income. Right? Most of years of my life, I made $60,000 or less. So I didn't have high income to actually invest a lot. So even if I had a 50% savings rate, that wasn't a lot of money. I didn't have a savings rate. I had zero savings rate. And so I specifically invested in real estate to reach financial freedom. But I get this question a lot, do you use a financial advisor? And I will not say that stocks or real estate, that one is better than the other. I have my reasons for choosing one, but there are people who are very successful choosing the other. And it can be entrepreneur, grow a business. It can be crypto. It can be one of those things. However, it worked for me because it matched my goal, my timeline, my situation, my resources, and my skill set. Maybe stocks are what works for you. So if you invest in stocks, should you use a personal advisor, a financial advisor? And the idea is if you do a quick Google search, you'll find a couple of reasons why landlords don't use financial advisors most of the time. A pretty good reason. And my opinion is based on personal experience, not just a Google search. The Google search will talk about assets under management. So if you invest in stocks, or if you invest in stocks and real estate, I really suggest checking out the channel Joe Kuhn. That's Kuhn, right? He had a longer timeline. He made some more money and he's smarter than me. And he invested in stocks. He retired at 54, been retired for like 6 years now. He has really good advice when it comes to picking a financial advisor because there were so many unethical financial advisor traits that they came out with the fiduciary rule, right? So to be a financial advisor, to be licensed, you have to sign a thing saying you're a fiduciary, which means you're going to put your client's needs above your personal gain. So even doing that, there is issues where financial advisors will say things kind of like, if this stock gets you an estimated return and this stock gets you an estimated return, they don't really care because they're looking at which stock gets them a better payment based on assets under management. So if this one index fund says we pay 2% to managers and this one pays 1%, they're going to subconsciously direct you towards the one where they make more money. So they come out with a fiduciary rule saying, can't do that. You have to think of what's going to benefit the client more, right? But so they signed a form saying they're a fiduciary. How likely is it that a commitment is going to make somebody ethical? Like, have you met marriage certificates? Like they take a freaking oath. How's that work out for some of us? So Joe talks about fee-only advisor, right? They're not going to make money managing your assets. They're going to make a one-time fee, something like $2,500 in a year to look at your portfolio and tell you some really strategic things you can do to improve your chances. So smart, not stock guy. So I'm not saying to do that. I'm saying watch Joe because I probably butchered what he actually says and learn what you're doing to find out what's the best way to go. But in real estate, this is my asset class. I'm 100% invested in real estate. No stocks, no crypto, no retirement accounts, no job. I had to, one, diversify a couple ways in real estate, and I could talk about that in another video. But why would I not want a financial advisor? I have a personal reason, which might not be what you think, because it is kind of assets under management. Part of it is I understand the unethical nature of most people, right? There are people I trust, but I do not trust people. There's a difference. The herd mentality, the likelihood of running into somebody who's unethical, but is very good at talking to get me to buy something that would benefit them more than it would benefit me. So in real estate, people sometimes think they have a financial advisor, and it's just as risky as having a non-fiduciary personal advisor that was such a bad situation where they had to come up with a rule saying you have to be a fiduciary to do this. So sometimes people go, I'm going to buy rental properties. I'm going to ask my property manager questions because they manage the properties. They're closest tied to the asset. So what do you think they're going to suggest? Now let's take my friend Jared, who lives in Oregon and he invests in Arizona. He could have a property manager, right? He does this rent by the room, doesn't have tenants, he has members. Right? It's a very unique strategy. He's killing it. But if he talks to his property manager and says, hey, look, I own 3 properties and the house I live in, I'd like to buy another one. Where do you think that property manager is going to suggest he buys? It's in their best interest to say, well, hey, here in this part of Arizona, here's some deals you can look at. Here's ways we can grow your business. Doesn't mean they're ethical or not ethical. It just means it benefits them. So it's more likely what they're going to suggest to him, other than I have a ton of reasons why I wouldn't invest in Oregon too. So, and I'm not even managing his assets. The property manager manages the assets. They're going to say what benefits them. So then we have this other mistake that people make and they think, okay, well, I have a real estate agent. And my first real estate agent was an investor, right? 30 properties, owned a brokerage or whatever you call when a bunch of agents work together. Is it a clouder? No, that's cats. He herd flock of agents. That doesn't sound right. A gaggle. There you go. He had 19 agents working in his office and gave me the worst advice ever because he didn't invest the way I did. He had never done small multifamily. He had never invested with a mortgage, right? He did cash purchases, running his office. He waited for the best deals to come through the door to cherry pick and got them. Doesn't mean he was ethical or not, but he's an agent. When you talk to an agent who's paid on commission and you say something like, should I invest in these counties where you're an agent, or should I invest out of state? What are they probably going to say? They can make $10,000 or $20,000 off the next small multifamily property that I buy. They're probably going to want me to buy here. So then let's say I look at one and housing prices are local, like real estate is very local. Your prices might be like mine, 600,000 for a duplex and 1.3 million for a fourplex, or it could be Gary, Indiana, where it's like 2 goats and a bale of hay for your duplex, but you might pay $100,000 for a duplex or $200,000 for a fourplex. So we'll pick a round number. If you go to buy a property and one is worth $100,000 and one is worth $200,000, right? You don't invest where I do, but you invest where prices, that's where they're at. They exist. Might not be a great place to invest, but they exist. And the agent is going to get a 3% commission. They can either make $3,000 or $6,000. Which property do you think they're going to suggest you buy? But not all agents. Like I've got an agent now who is an investor who has actually suggested not buying certain deals because he can run the numbers like I do. He can look at the yield. He can look at all of the aspects, physical aspects of the property. Does this attract tenants? Will this keep tenants? Is it in the right neighborhood? Like there's all these other aspects outside of math. But when you're the agent, it really comes down to what's my commission check going to be? And yeah, if you want repeat business, but most agents don't work with real estate investors. Most agents work with home buyers because there's 4 people who pay for properties, and it's kind of tiered. Home buyers buy based on payment. They'll pay the most for a property. Investors buy based on yield, so we'll pay more than flippers and wholesalers, but we won't often pay as much as a home buyer because they're not looking at the yield. They're not calculating the math. They're looking at their budget and saying, we can afford it, we like it, buy based on payment. So most agents work with home buyers because they buy based on payment. They're going to buy the more expensive place. So our agent's not our financial advisor. Then you have the lender. So a lot of people go, I have a cousin who's a lender or an aunt who works in this industry. So I'm going to ask them for advice on real estate. And 90% of agents never own a rental. I don't know the statistics on lenders, but it's probably not that much. Just because you work in the industry doesn't mean you invest in this asset class. So what does a lender do? It's a type of asset under management. Their job isn't to get you the best deal. That's your job. Their deal is to close and sell loan products, right? To not start a process without making sure you're kind of pre-qualified. So underwriting is more than likely going to follow through and actually approve your loan. So they're going to look at which product is my company currently trying to sell. Now, lenders aren't my friend who works in the industry, who's in the underwriting side, who wasn't the actual lender, but he said, we don't look at our lenders and go, okay, you closed 60 mortgages last year. That's not even a metric they look at. They don't look at how many deals you closed. They look at the millions of dollars in value of the loans you closed on, giving assets under management, either collecting fees on these or the percentage-based ratio of the way the income works. So they go, you closed $47 million last year. And this other person only closed $25 million last year. So they were less effective for the company. So when you go to do a loan for a company, if you're looking at your lender for advice, what do you think they're going to suggest? You buy the $100,000 property or the $200,000 property? It's the exact same amount of work for them. They're going to close as many deals, which is not a metric that's often looked at. Like they'll use it in bragging rights and present a plaque, but it's not who gets hired or who gets poached by other companies. If you look at their data, it's we closed $2 billion in assets under management for whatever it is. You're going to get them suggesting the larger amount. So they're closing more deals on money. You're going to get your agent to suggest the higher amount because their commission goes bigger. You get your property manager suggesting to invest where they are managing so that they can benefit from it. So the financial advisor in stocks were making so many suggestions, and none of this is why I don't use a financial advisor. I'll tell you why, the personal experience thing here. This is a short video I'm doing. I normally do them outside, but the wind today was not playing and it musses my hair or the microphone. Pick your battle. So why don't landlords have financial advisors? First, okay, they can't benefit, right? The financial advisors don't get to become your property manager and have assets under management. They're not going to really make money. So a fee only would be a solution. But second option, they don't understand the asset class, right? Because it's not just math. We do our members only group meetings, which we have another one coming up in I think next week or the week after, at Tuesday at 6 after the live stream, where we break down a deal. We did 3 deals on the last one where it takes about 90 seconds to look at a deal and think if you like it or not, but we talk about it for 30 minutes to 45 minutes because math is this much. Then it's all these other things that a financial advisor probably wouldn't think of. How's the parking? Are there washer dryer hookups? Are the yards actually pet friendly? All of these things that make a rental profitable that is beyond the math. So they don't understand it because most of them don't own it. Even guys like Joe Kuhn, he has said he doesn't own rentals, but he's done fix and flips. So move into a house, fix it up, live there for a while, sell it, use the IRS 121 rule to not pay any taxes up to $500,000 because he's married, and then redeploy those funds. So he's used real estate. He's just not a rental owner investor. So here's my experience as to why personal financial advisors don't work in the real estate sector as much as they do in stocks. First, this is a short video where I might not answer all the questions, but if you want your question answered, Tuesdays, 4 p.m. Pacific, I do answer questions. A video usually goes on an hour or two, but these are videos for the people who don't want to click on a 2-hour video. So for the last decade of my work, right, I've been a Marine, a cop, a truck driver, loss prevention, my favorite job. And that was even more fun than being a cop. In the last 10 years, 13 years, I was a CDL instructor, right? From like 2010-ish, 9, 10 to 2022. What is that math? Yeah, 13 years or so. I was a CDL instructor, got slowly demoted down to president of the company, but I was still in the truck teaching whenever I could. Loved the job, loved playing in semis like they're a go-kart. It was tons of fun. But part of my job, and one of the reasons why I was demoted, is because I figured out how to grow the business. I had a couple of ideas, right? Create a nonprofit that found people jobs in non-driving positions like HR, IT, operations, and logistics so that we would develop relationships with local trucking companies so our graduates don't have to go over the road, they go to local jobs. Part of my job ended up being going on base, right? We're close to Joint Base Lewis McChord and the Bremerton Navy Base. Probably has a name. Bremerton Shipyard? No, it's a civilian site. I should know this things. So I'd also go into prisons and do presentation, and I would go to work sources and do presentations. I'm not sure which one was worse. But I'd go on base and I would do these presentations, and they had this thing called Soldier for Life SFL TAP program. Soldier for SFL. I don't know if that acronym works. And they had a transition center. Not the way you use transition now, but getting out of the military or spouses relocating to a base in order to help find a job. And I would be there representing the CDL school. You can use your GI Bill. You can use Evoke Rehab. The MyCAA program can pay for your training to get you a CDL, which is for military spouses, to get you a better job or a job when you get out. I also was there for the nonprofit, right? People would come and I would find them office jobs, warehouse jobs for free. It was a fee-free nonprofit. We literally weren't intending to make money, because the benefit was actually growing the school, because we developed relationships with local employers, becoming a source of people. So I'd be in these buildings with all these, I want to say kiosks, because it's more like a booth, like at a job fair or a convention, but we were there pretty much every week doing this presentation. I would cover our resume theory. And there would be these booths of financial advisors on base. Now this is not to say this the whole industry works this way, because only 1 or 2% of our population in the US are in the military, right? Or become veterans, right? So 98, 99% never in the military. Probably maybe have a family member, a cousin, or somebody in your family who was touched the military somehow, but 98% not in the military. So this is a very small microcosm that made me perceive the whole industry a certain way. So I'd meet these financial advisors. And they would come over and they'd find out you're on base. Not everybody on the base presenting is a veteran. Very few actually. There'd be colleges they're recruiting that don't have veterans that work at their college. So I was in the Marines. I'm on a Navy base. There was a Marine recruit. I was a reserve unit there. So the Army is outnumbered there. And threw off the Emperor's groove. They would start the conversation with, we are, name any financial advisor group that is presenting on a military installation or presenting anywhere in colleges, tried to present at the CDL school saying, we can help you do your finances better for the future. And as soon as I mentioned rentals, right, I own rentals. I'm running a school. I'm running a nonprofit, but I have started buying rentals. I'm house hacking a duplex. No longer talking to me. They were done. They'd be cordial. We're stuck in a building every week, so we'd talk about other things, but they would stop. And they weren't recruiting me because they thought, so here's what you find when you do a Google search. It's assets under management. So if you invest in stocks, then they can make money off of you. So 100% of your investing funds, if you invest in stocks, they can make money from. If you invest in stocks and rentals, now let's say you make $100,000 a year in disposable income. So you're making $200,000-300,000, whatever, round numbers. Most people aren't making that much. I understand. I never did until the last 2 years of working. Still didn't keep me working. And if they can make $100,000, but now you buy rentals and you say, I'm going to put 50,000 into stocks and 50,000 into my next rental, you just cut their potential income by 50%. So they're less likely to talk to you if you invest in rentals and stocks than they are if you just invest in stocks because of assets under management. But when they found out I invest only in rentals, that meant there was really no way, because landlords don't usually use financial planners. But here's why they stopped talking to me. I was a fly in the ointment. They weren't there at that booth to find service members. This was my personal experience. This is not the entire industry. So if I sounded tacky, it's because I got really pissed at this point in time. They were there to find veterans to recruit to be financial planners. Because when a financial planner business is talking to people, they're not trying to get a customer. They're not trying to find that person's investing strategy and go to the military person and say, you have a TSP account. Here's what it's going to look like when you get out. And here's the things you can do with it, right? 1 or 2% of people are veterans. They're looking for the people who have outreach. They're not looking for your income. They're looking for your access. If you run an HOA, they're going to talk to you. If you're a troop leader and you go to meetings, they're going to talk to you. The financial advisors are looking for people that they can recruit who have kind of like an Amway Network 21 pyramid scheme type thing. Who do you reach that you can bring into the fold to bring in more assets under management? And that doesn't happen with landlords. We go to meetings and we talk about strategy. We talk about market shifting. We don't go to meetings and have somebody come in and go, as a financial planner, here's what you can do with your rentals, because they don't have a freaking clue. You have people like Matt, the lumberjack landlord, saying, here's how you improve your processes. Here's how you reduce your costs and improve your income. And he's not a financial advisor because he makes his money from real estate. This is just my personal experience, right? So I'm giving you actual face-to-face interaction with not a full decade, because the first few years I was getting demoted. So probably 8 years on that base of financial advisors cycling through the different companies that would come in and present, because they go through, each quarter a different one would come in, and then they would cycle through people who could standing at a table talking about stuff they really didn't believe, to recruit service members to have access to service members, not because they were going to benefit the person they were finding. Yes, in that entire time, I found one who seemed ethical, who actually had a brain. Didn't talk to me about it when he found out I had rentals. He said, "Oh, that's a personal choice. I understand. I can't benefit you, so I'm not really going to talk to you about it. And I don't understand it." He was truthful about it. But for the most part, I could listen to them talk at their table. When are you getting out? What's your MOS? How big is your company? Where are you planning on going? Because this is where we need our financial advisors to be staged outside the base once you get out. It was very frustrating to see the predatory nature of an industry that was so predatory. They came out and said, you have to sign a form saying you are going to be a fiduciary, putting your client's needs above your personal gain because the industry was so bad. And then they go, but we're going to turn you loose on the base to find service members that you talk into being a financial advisor because they have access to other service members. This is why landlords don't use financial advisors. They don't understand it. They can't benefit from what we're investing in, and they don't own it. Now, if you find a financial advisor who also owns rentals, maybe they have some advice for you. But how often is that? What percentage of financial advisors own real estate and own rentals and suggest it in the portfolio? It's possible. They probably exist. And if you do invest in stocks and have a financial advisor, check out Joe Kuhn. Go to his channel, KUHN, here on YouTube, and make sure that you follow his advice of using a fee-only financial planner, somebody that you pay a fee to that tells you what to do or what their suggestions are, and then doesn't benefit from where you allocate your funds. Thank you for hanging out with me on this random Thursday. I get to see Corey Wallace tonight, going to dinner. He's in town. So appreciate you coming and hanging out. I will see you this weekend in the next video. Unless you're in Futureland, that was all very confusing. Have a day full of awesome.